that essentially solves a lot of problems that the crypto space still needs to solve.
Hello, you're watching TechedTV. Today we're going to bring Intercoin, a new fintech company. And we have the two founders, Greg and Jason, and also Carlos Cabrera. And hi, guys. How are you guys doing over there? Hi, Greg. Hi, Jason.
Hi, how are you?
Great. So we have actually your presentation up. Actually, our viewers are going to be watching your PowerPoint. Give me 1 second. I'm going to bring it up to me because I have it here, but not in the studio. Now I will. So I was very intrigued about your presentation and tell us a little bit about your background. How do you guys met and how do you get started Intercoin?
Sure. Well, I think I've been in the space of decentralizing things for a long time. I like to say I was into decentralization before it was cool.
Okay.
So around 2011, I started my first company looking to decentralize Facebook because I had been working as a digital sort of agency, consultant, programmer, and I saw how the sausage was made with Facebook and campaigns and everything.
Right.
Just to give you an example, people would buy 50,000 likes. You'd go to an agency, the brand would pay the agency, and I would wind up building some kind of app. But really, mostly no one saw the app. So it was 50,000 likes were bought, maybe 10,000 organic likes. It was all about this sort of interaction. It said, what if communities could have their own social network and have their own software? Wouldn't that be cool? Because then they could do whatever they want. So that's kind of what started this whole idea of like owning your own data, owning your own software, kind of like you own WordPress blogs, right?
Right.
So that's what I did initially, and I got into Cubix. That was my first company. And Jason and I, we knew each other from like house parties, I think. I didn't know he was into crypto until much later, actually.
Okay.
I've been playing for a little while. So at first it was like a secret. Like you don't tell anybody in 2010 you were in crypto. They thought you were like buying drugs or something. And then in 2013, I started working at the Bitcoin Center. I lobbied the first two cryptocurrency bills ever presented in Congress with my good friend Marcus and Steve Stockman at the time. And that went on to 2015. And I worked on the blockchain voting machines with Blockchain Tech Corp also. And in that time, I started telling Greg to buy a few tokens, and he's like, I'm busy trying to change the world, right? That's his thing.
Yeah, exactly.
With communities. So I'm not interested in that like investing kind of thing right now. And then when Greg started realizing, it's a lot more than investing in the DeFi tech. So today, Intercoin in 2020 is actually bringing my dream into not just powering communities, but also getting into DeFi tech. It's getting really exciting.
So you.
We'll talk about that. But we basically met. I knew Jason many years where I didn't know he was in crypto. And, he came to my house parties and knew each other. And then he kind of told me about all this Bitcoin stuff. And when it really hit me was when, he brought me to the Bitcoin Center. It was here in New York and Wall Street for a while, Broad Street. And then what happened was when I saw Ethereum, that's when I really kind of, realized that this thing could be general purpose, not just Bitcoin, not just storing value and transferring value. And then around 2017, we were sitting around with Congressman Stockman and a couple other people, and I said, I've been looking at money, and money is a network community phenomenon. It needs a network effect within a community. So, for example, a casino, when you go into a casino, you use chips, and you use them because everyone else will accept them. So it's sort of like a network effect within the casino. You don't need the whole world to accept a currency for it to be valuable within the thing. So I was saying all this, and eventually that led to starting Intercoin because we saw that all the cryptos around that time were, the big ones, Bitcoin, Ethereum, were all sort of based on one global currency that's peer-to-peer, okay? And even the technology underneath it had like this big global consensus about who owns what, and every transaction in the world has to go through like one computer, which is called a miner. Either proof of work or proof of stake or anything. To extend the blockchain, you need one or two computers, one computer, which is a huge bottleneck. Anyway, so we said, what if we just reimagine the whole thing? And we having already had a social network, which by the way has millions of users download the software, thousands every day download it. We have the user base and we have the communities. So all we have to do is build a payment network on top of it, and boom, suddenly you have a social network and a payment network on top that essentially solves a lot of the problems which the crypto space still needs to solve. So that's how Intercoin got founded initially.
So all right, so in other words, you're kind of recreating the local currencies, the fiat currencies that exist, let's say, in every country around the world, right? Like, but they're not global. Like I can know you. I had the euro now that becomes a eurozone, but a lot of countries are trying to disperse, right? They're trying to separate from the eurozone and go back to the previous currency they had, like the lira, or they wanted to the Swiss franc. So you're trying to create these communities with their own coin. That's exactly like Intercoin is. Like I can have like a coin for Miami. I can have another coin just for like Florida maybe, or have a coin for a country in Central America, or is that how Intercoin you visualize it?
You can even think more granularly, like a coin for a town, or a coin for a cruise ship, or a coin for a university, around
right.
that area.
Right.
And essentially, we want to make it so that it's so easy to deploy. Same way that when you have WordPress, you can deploy a blog.
Right.
It's not easy a priori to just have a blog. You have to build all the comment systems and everything, but that's already built. That's the platform. And WordPress powers 30% of all websites in the world, so it's very popular. And when I started Cubics, we already have experience building for a community. Same thing. If you want to have local, I'll give you some applications, some examples. Dating, having doctor's appointments, right? Any sort of local reservations at local businesses and venues. That stuff you can do without needing a third party somewhere in California, like Facebook, right? We're decentralizing that software, giving it to everybody. Same way, if you can make the kind of thing that, when you mentioned countries, central banks, that's a lot of high-powered machinery.
Right.
To do that.
Right.
So what happens is that instead of having, what if we gave it to every town, right? Every poet society, every university, like you go on a cruise ship or whatever, and all those stores on the cruise ship accept the local currency. Well, we could talk about it. There's a lot of benefits. One, it creates loyalty. It creates sort of this extended community, which right now is even more important than ever, because right now people aren't getting together in real life. Right. But they are essentially forming online virtual communities. So even more than ever, you need online voting, online governance, online currencies, and that's what Intercoin provides. It's all crypto-powered, secured by crypto, but these kind of things only became possible the last few years.
So I
solves several major problems in space. If we could do unlimited payments with all these local communities, with the local fintech, unlimited payments can happen in space, which doesn't happen now. And solves several other problems in this space.
So yeah, unlimited meaning in the sense that, like, how many transactions can Bitcoin support per second, right? There's a definite answer.
Right.
How many, like 10, I believe, at most. How many can Ethereum support per second? Like 20? The thing is, if you look at any other protocol on the internet, no one asks how many emails can the internet support or how many websites can the web support. And that's because the more computers you add to the network, right, they can all work in parallel so you can support more.
Right.
Snowball. And it's only because you have this bottleneck of the miner and the global consensus that you can, no matter how much electricity you burn, you always can only spend. And if you look right now, Ethereum, as we speak, record this today, right?
Right.
The fees are, again, back to $5 a transaction or something like that.
So it's back exactly like fiat currency almost. But like I have here one of your slides, you have like the Detroit coin, Harvard coins, Navajo coins, Chess Club, like, so that's what you envision. Like every single one that wants to build their own coin, either in a community, a city, a small town, or like university, how do they do that with you? What's the process? Do I download Intercoin like just like WordPress, or how does it work?
Yeah, you download the software. So just to be clear, the software hasn't launched yet, and the tokens are pre-sale. So you could go ahead and you could go to the website, you could buy Intercoin ITR, the tokens. They're based on the Ethereum network at the moment.
Right.
And those ITR tokens have a wide range of applications, once the network launches. And then, later on, just to tell you, we're also building DeFi, which is we're building applications on top of Ethereum for the moment before we launch our own platform. But going back to the platform, the tokens right now in the pre-sale, so they're going to be exchanged one-to-one with the Intercoin tokens. What happens is the community can go ahead and download the software once it's available. And they essentially they issue a currency, just like let's say a cruise ship or a casino would issue their own chips, right? And everybody gets it on into their wallet, not a real wallet, but
right.
their phone.
Right.
You can also have charge cards, one of these, credit cards that you can pull out, etc. So essentially, there's three problems that we need to solve, and we could go through each of them in turn. The difference between Intercoin and everything else out there is that we're focusing on real-world applications, listening to what the regulators are saying, and actually working with the latest, like the lawyers who got no action letters done, and we're talking about money transmission, FinCEN, as well as the SEC. So there's three things we're working on. Technology, we've figured out an architecture which is not just secure, like Bitcoin, which is secure, but it's also scalable. So like Jason was saying, unlimited transactions per second. There is no set limit on it. Could just all work at the same time. Number two is we worked about regulation, because if you see, like Telegram has solved all the tech problems, but then they were stopped by the regulators anyway. We've got to be very clear. So Intercoin separates the security part, the part where the coin is a security,
right?
The part where the local communities aren't currencies, and they're actually pegged to the dollar or anything else. So in other words, we don't want those to be considered securities, but we do want Intercoin to be a security because people buy it expecting to get more profit.
So in other words, I create my own token for my own purpose, and I'm using ITR exactly as the actual currency, and then ITR can that's how you have this diagram where you can actually transact. Then if I'm have a Detroit coin, let's say, and then I want to go into the cruise, into the Norwegian coin, right? So I can convert my Detroit coins into Norwegian coins, so I can buy drinks and dinner at my cruise. Is that how it's supposed to work?
Almost, yes.
Okay.
In other words, there's three things we need to solve. Three separate. It's a multidisciplinary project. One is technology, and so we talked to a bunch of technologists and our advisors who help to make this both scalable and secure. Okay, that's a feat in itself.
Right.
Then the regulators, we need to make sure that there's so many regulations around the world, so many jurisdictions, but we need a design that makes them happy. Okay.
Right.
Regulators and communities not happy when you're moving millions and billions of dollars just like that for a small fee, because they care about capital controls. They care about capital flight. They don't want money to just leave the economy like that. But they're very happy to have people buy coffee, pay their barber, just everyday transactions, okay? And even if you look at most regulators, they don't care if it's like up to $1,000 per day even. A lot of the FinCEN regulations and a lot of the travel rule that they have now, also in Asia and other places. They require you to disclose large transactions, but small transactions happen all the time. So that's one important thing. I can talk about that. And also, when you're doing it within a city, you're not what's called an IVTS, which is an informal value transfer system. You're not moving things from one location to the other. The point of Intercoin is not to store a giant amount of value and transmit it somewhere else. The point of Intercoin is the long tail of transactions that are not currently being done with crypto, which is buying coffee, everyday adoption. Like you're using Facebook,
right?
You should be using Intercoin. So, and then the third one I haven't spoken about is economics. Because it's not enough to build it and have the regulators be happy, but it's also important to know how can the community go from not having its own currency to issuing it, to getting all the local merchants to accept it, and then eventually even issue a local UBI, universal basic income, give it to its residents, and have it go from nothing to being accepted through the community. So that's, we've done that with Cubics and getting a social network accepted.
Right.
So that's a similar thing, getting a currency accepted. So technology, regulations, and economics. And we have advisors for all that. Last thing I just want to say on that point so the way it works is you buy Intercoin, a community then buys it from you or whatever. The community gets Intercoin, puts it as a reserve. So the best way you can think of it is as the gold of the Intercoin ecosystem. And Jason can elaborate on that. Essentially, like in the free banking era, the bank had some gold.
Right.
And that was the reserve. And then the banknotes are the local currency.
Got you.
Say also that Intercoin is a bridge currency, and it gives the fiat and crypto gateways for the communities. So how they can get in and out of other cryptos into Intercoin or into their community currencies, they need Intercoin. So Intercoin is what will be traded on different exchanges, and actually we eliminate speculation in people's community currencies that they wouldn't want to have in their currency. They would want it as just a fiat currency within their community.
And how far are you guys from achieving this goal? Like what stage you're in? You're launching when, and when do you think that you can see the first use case happening?
I would say that Intercoin has a roadmap. If you go to the website, there's 5 stages of the roadmap, and I'm just actually going to go there so I don't misspeak.
Sure.
The first stage is already done. The first stage is architecture, making sure that we can actually build the thing that, it's a very ambitious goal.
Right.
Something that's just as secure as Bitcoin, or almost as secure, I don't know, is different. But at the same time, be very, very scalable. And we started with, we spoke with guys at Ripple, and they said, yeah, just use our software. It's open source. And,
right.
Because Intercoin is kind of like, the Intercoin is a bit like, if you know the Ripple ecosystem, it's the XRP.
Right.
Of the
Right.
All right. But instead of connecting like trust lines between people, it connects entire community. Okay. The problem is Ripple's solving a different thing. It's between banks. Okay. And these banks are trusted entities in a way. Not to say that the communities aren't trusted, but if you're going to have very fast infrastructure in a community, okay, there's a trade-off. On the one hand, you can make everything very centralized and fast. And that's like EOS is kind of centralized, or WeChat
right.
has a database, right? And the Chinese government has probably like a direct line into like every transaction.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
And they're very happy about that, and they helped WeChat to go to 1 million merchants. Be accepted at 1 million merchants. On the other hand, you have something very decentralized like Bitcoin or Ethereum, but then the way that they do it is they have a global consensus. Every time you need to mine a new valid block, right, you send out the block, and the thing is then you need to sort of have the entire network vote on which continuation is correct.
Right. Right. So.
By the way, it's great because before, like if I said this in 2012, people would look at what he's talking.
Yeah.
Everyone understands it. So the thing is with that, if you have the entire network vote on things, whether they vote with hash rate or whether they vote with stake or anything else, it's expensive. And we can see that with how much electricity is being burned to secure 10 transactions per second.
Right.
It's kind of the wrong architecture if you want to like have everyday payment. And you can see that because today Ethereum is $5 per transaction. If everything was active at the same time, like if 1,000 tokens were active on Ethereum, it would just like crash. Or we get,
yeah. Right.
And Vitalik says this himself. He says that the Ethereum blockchain was pretty close to like being full, as he said. So you need a new architecture. So that's what Intercoin is doing. So this basically architecture, we finished it. We know exactly what we're going to build. And you can ask me about that. There's a lot of cool details about that. With coins that are red, yellow, and green, different states. And like green coins you can accept right away. Yellow coins you could sort of accept if you're kind of desperate. You can take that payment. Red is like you shouldn't accept that right now. You should wait.
One of the best questions to ask Greg that I've never seen him speak about on video before is how it's expensive to attack the Intercoin network. My good friend Chris Odom that made open transactions. He's like one of the first people to have an article about him in the Wall Street Journal and Forbes back in 2011, 2012. He said one of the most interesting things about Intercoin that, wow, you guys solved It's like a non-blockchain DLT, like proof of work, but not proof of work and not a blockchain.
No, it's
It solves a huge problem in space that everybody's trying to like reinvent the wheel. It says like proof of work is like the wheel, and everybody's trying to reinvent it on the blockchain.
Right.
The big problem is to still be secure. It has to be centralized to some degree. All these proof of stake or all these other consensus models are slightly decentralized, at least.
Yeah.
Centralized.
Right.
And
That's,
this is not.
That's actually, so to answer your previous question though, directly, we have 5, if you go on the website, the roadmap consists of 5 stages. The first one is architecture. We finished that. That's very good because when we started Intercoin, I wasn't even going to say, when we took a first investor's money, we had in the PPM right there that, there's no guarantee this thing might even be buildable. Maybe no version of what we're trying to, those features could work. But luckily it turns out there is. It took us a while. And it's very important to figure that out.
So your roadmap will be like, so right now, how much have you raised? How much are you raising? And when do you think that it could be like, are we saying like next year is something that's achievable?
Yeah. So how much have we raised? I think, Jason, how much have we pre-sold? Like 600,000, I think, total. Somewhere close to that of Intercoin tokens to date.
Okay. And how much do you need to raise? Like 2 million or I don't know.
So I'm very optimistic. I think, like $1 million is probably. Look, these products, and Jason can speak to this also. My view is like this. Look, these projects that have raised millions and tens of millions of dollars, I think, just learned from Jason that Factum just went.
They disappear, and then just like the money just evaporates. But what you have is, I think, in my opinion, for what you're describing, is like you have a big linear search right now when you do any transaction, and then the larger it gets the tree, then the more difficult it is to do the transaction because there's so many more transactions that you describe now. The time to transaction. So what you're describing is not only decentralized, but what you're doing is splitting the tree into n sub-trees. So by simple, I think a computer scientist can prove that it'd be like you'll be a all log n, or maybe you might be like a logarithmic value of the number of transactions that are current in Bitcoin. That will decrease by the number of trees that you can subsequently subdivide the whole tree. So then the transaction will occur super fast, and then it will. So I think actually by the simple explanation you gave me, I think I can conclude that it will be number one, super fast, super scalable. It will be like basically the creation of Quicksort. The first time that was bubble sort, it was right. So I think
like O of log n.
Yeah.
If you have a tree and
Right.
you have n things in it, then the height of the tree
Exactly.
is O of log n.
Yeah.
Yeah, which grows very slowly. It's like the opposite of exponential.
Exactly. That, and I think that's the main issue with Bitcoin right now. Like I remember when I had this laptop that I have here with Bitcoin from 2011. You basically download the blockchain in like 5 minutes. Now the blockchain takes like a couple of days, even with a 1 gig connection, right? It's like,
and that's the other thing. Yeah, the memory requirements of storing every transaction. I have this analogy that I like to use. Imagine like BitTorrent, which was predated Bitcoin, right?
Right.
BitTorrent started using, and then I remember when there was like Kazaa and these other things, right? So imagine if BitTorrent, you seed some of your files that you're storing and you help others to get them as well, and then it uses Kademlia, which is a distributed hash table. Okay, that's the guy who
right.
He's actually from NYU, and I met with him, and like he's one of the guys that helped advise us as well. He's a paid consultant.
He's not being paid in ITRs?
No. A lot of our advisors are getting paid in ITRs, but not him. No.
Okay.
So his name is Petar Maimunkov.
Okay.
I think I have that correctly. So Petar, is basically saying he invented this thing that now everybody uses. It's the dominant way to implement a distributed hash table, or DHT.
Right.
DHT, for the viewers who doesn't know, there's a space of all possible file IDs or whatever. And let's say those file IDs are 160 bits, okay, because that's how many ones and zeros like the hash is.
Right.
And then 160, that's basically 160 dimensional space where each dimension is either a 1 or a 0 kind of thing. So Kademlia basically says, look, a computer will have a point in this space, and the file will have a point in this space. So given the file, you find the 10 closest computers that are closest to this file by some metric, which is the Kademlia metric, the XOR metric. Anyway, the point is, it finds the closest computers, and those are the ones supposed to store the file. Now, imagine if, instead, every computer stored every file, every movie ever on the...
It would be impossible.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But that is what Bitcoin does, and that's what every blockchain does.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Like, I think this concept about distributed hash tables, and I think we're like you said, maybe like I studied computer science and high performance computing was in the high performance computing lab, and we analyzed all these problems like gossip protocols and like consensus algorithms, and then like okay, like and then you saw I'm talking about 1999 when I was working on a master's, right? And now I'm like, okay, you guys are doing what with blockchain? You don't know anything about these things. It's just you guys are crazy. It's just, but I think it's part of the disconnect between the real people that understand how the distributed computer system works and how these people are applying the wrong concepts. And I think you're on the right track. I like your concept. I think it's awesome. I really think you guys are behind something big, something really, really big. I feel it. Yes, I think you guys are on the right track, and I thank Carlos for making the introduction to you guys. But we run out of time because usually it takes about 20-25 minutes this show, and I want to invite you guys later. Maybe we can have a follow up and keep people updated with the progress. I'm going to be very happy to see you guys again, and if there's anything we can collaborate, more than happy to help. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
We're gonna post everything from them, so you guys can follow them and see maybe somebody wants to invest in Intercoin. I think I'll pass the voice around here so people can get to know about your company and stuff like that. And have a great rest of the day, guys. Take care.
Thank you very much, and hope to see you on intercoin.org.
We'll be. All right. Bye.
All right.